Mr. Real Talk, your go-to YouTube channel for brotherhood, sisterhood, and an attempt at righteousness. America loves violence. It's something that has been ingrained in our minds, in our hearts, in our spirits since we've been knee-high to a duck. This problem has gotten so out of control, so out of hand. And it's not just starting now. You know what? I guess this is going to be a, a bit of a story time. Not going to keep y'all too long, right? Just want to give you a little example of a serious lesson I learned as a child, okay? As a young lad, as a whippersnapper out here in these streets. America loves violence. It's like the top thing on the menu. Can I get an amen out there, as the Christians would say? It's the top thing on the menu. It's the thing that people are most concerned with. So outlandish. And you know what? I don't even know what made me think about this one particular story I'm getting ready to tell you guys. And it's not going to be long. You'll be in and out of here before you know it, okay? But if you are new to this channel, if this is your first time over here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bells for all notifications so that you know when we pop out around here. Like I said, as a child, okay? I'm born in Washington, D.C. Shout out to D.C. If you're from Washington, D.C., go down below in the comment sections and let us know. What up? Born in Washington, D.C. Lived in Washington, D.C. as a child until we moved to PG. If you guys don't know what PG is, that's Prince George's County. That's in Maryland. That's where people get this DMV thing from, D.C. The D in the DMV stands for D.C. The M stands for Maryland. The V stands for Virginia. Now, when I was a young whippersnapper, a young lad, when I was in school, there was no such thing as DMV. I don't know who came up with that. That's some young nigga stuff right there. That's some maybe radio station crap. I don't know. All I know is when I was a young nigga on the turf growing up, it wasn't no such thing as no DMV. You was either a nigga from DC or a nigga from Maryland or a nigga from Virginia. Even though all these places are right there, okay? But for the most part, I will say that the so-called DMV, that's the parts of Maryland that are closest to D.C. and the parts of Virginia that are closest to D.C. If you're going way out in Maryland, people don't consider that the DMV. If you're going way out Virginia, they don't consider that the DMV. The state of Maryland is very big. The state of Virginia is very big. D.C. ain't that big, okay? It's all about D.C. That's why people say that DMV, D.C. comes first. That's the place where the president is at. Believe it or not, some of you out of towners might not know D.C. is not just about the White House and the delegates and the senators. It's actually a very dangerous place to live, okay? I saw someone on the news the other day, they was talking about the leading cause. The leading cause of death for children in America is blah. Yeah, gun violence. And they said if you are a kid growing up in Washington, D.C., going to school in Washington, D.C., going to school in Washington, D.C., or just growing up in Washington, D.C., they said that children who grow up in Washington, D.C. are 2 times more likely than the nation average to either personally experience gun violence or secondhand experience gun violence. I thought that was pretty insane. And speaking of the crazy violence, anybody know anything about Washington, D.C.? Or if you just maybe you might have just been a thug all your life, or a gangster, a drug dealer, a criminal, whatever. But if you from anywhere from around DC, Maryland, and Virginia, you guys know what happened 2 days ago. One of the biggest drug kingpins in the history of Washington, D.C., Rayful Edmond, he passed away about 2 days ago at 60 years old. Now, if you're a person, you don't keep up with that kind of stuff, you don't know about street stuff, maybe you're not from D.C., but even people who are not from D.C., this thing was like the story was like a nationwide story. Rayful Edmond was not only one of the biggest kingpins in D.C., one of the biggest kingpins in American history, which drives back to the point in this video. America loves violence. Even as a child, I knew that it was all about violence. I think I told you guys the story about what happened to me when I was a young lad. I actually survived the lynching, okay? Elementary school. First moved to the neighborhood. It was like 9 to 10 niggas. These niggas jumped me, okay? And it was for no reason. I didn't even know these niggas. I hadn't done nothing to them. We hadn't had no problem. A nigga just said, "Hey, you." I turned around. He said, "Hey, I'm gonna get some niggas to jump you today after school." I kid you not. I might have been like, I don't know, I might have been like 8 years old. I might have been 8 years old, no more than 9, somewhere 8 or 9 years old, right? At this particular time, and it's only hindsight looking back, right? I don't think that I knew what getting jumped meant at 8 or 9, because I had never been jumped before. I had never really, I don't think when I was 8, you know what? I think the first nigga that I ever seen to get jumped was myself. How about that? And I'm just thinking about that just now. I came to that conclusion. Although I saw many people get jumped after that, but the first nigga that I saw to get jumped was myself. Just dawned on me. Hell of a fact. Hit that like button while you're in here and subscribe to the channel. Giving you a good story time. Right? But this is not about me. But I just thought about it. That's the first time I became acquainted with savagery and violence. Personally, 8 or 9 years old. I don't care what nobody say. These niggas was trying to kill me in my mind when I look back on it. You got 8 or 9, 8 to 10 niggas on you beating the shit out of you. Excuse my language. Or not excuse my language. That sounds like an attempt on one's life. At least that's how I feel. You ever had 8 or 9 niggas on your head trying to crack you wide open? It ain't fun. Okay? That's what happened to me. But check this out. This story I'm going to tell you guys about, I thought what happened to me was savage. And make no mistake about it, that was brutal and it was savage. I think I shared that story with you guys before. I want to say I did. But you guys let me know. Go down in the comment section and let me know. Have I told you guys about that story when I got viciously, brutally lynched? I survived the lynching, y'all. And it wasn't the so-called white man. It was the niggas in my neighborhood. That's how they welcomed me to the neighborhood. Beat the brakes off me. Yeah, they did. But check this out. If you a nigga from the hood, if you ever grew up in the hood, you guys know sometimes that's how niggas get welcome to the neighborhood. Either a whole bunch of niggas want to fight you one-on-one just because, but a lot of the times, see, I grew up in the era which you would call the jumping era. Niggas was gonna jump you, even if the one guy felt like he could beat you up by himself, and the other guys from his neighborhood might know that's our homeboy. He could take this guy by himself. But just based on general principle, niggas would just jump you just because. I'm talking to somebody out there. You guys know what I'm talking about out there, all right? Yeah. So this is what happened to one of the homies, one of the big homies, right? He moved to the neighborhood, right? Now I'm watching this happen to somebody else. This ain't me. The homie, you know what? Somebody might know him. He might see this video. You just never know who watches these videos, who finds these videos. To the homie Big Frank. I ain't going to say his last name. You know who you are, Big Frank. And you know who I am if you hear this story. Right? I ain't gonna say what neighborhood, but I will tell you the town. Shout out to Landover, okay? Anybody know anything about Washington, D.C.? You know it's a town right outside of Washington, D.C. It's called Landover, Maryland. You got Landover, you got Sea Pleasant right there. It's like right there at the D.C. line. And for anybody who's familiar with Washington, D.C. or the DMV, you know that this is how it goes. Washington, D.C. is known for its savagery, all right, for violence, for gun violence particularly. And any town that's right there on the very immediate outskirts of Washington, D.C., has also had a huge problem with gun violence, period. Every other day you look up somebody from Washington, D.C. or PG County, you hear a lot about Washington, D.C. first, and then you're going to hear PG County right on their heels. It's always violence. People are gunning people down, broad daylight, nighttime, parking lots, carryouts. Niggas stay getting shot at the carryout, either in the carryout or around the carryout. One of my cousins got killed in the carryout. You know what I'm saying? If you know, you know. You guys know niggas love to kill niggas at liquor stores, carryouts, chicken joints, gas stations. Yeah, if you know, you know. Certain gas stations, you niggas already know. Don't even bother wasting your time getting gas. One of my folks, you know what I'm saying, born and raised savage from DC, he told me, hey, bruh, don't ever get gas in DC, bruh. Right? He born and raised in DC. He said, bruh, and he said he leaves DC to go and get gas. He said it got to be an emergency for him to go to stop in DC, and he's born and raised in DC. Got to be an emergency for him to go get gas. If you know, you know. Y'all, I don't be making this stuff up. These niggas out here is wild, and they can't wait to kill you. It's been that way since, at least, you know what? Since the crack era. Told you guys one of the biggest drug kingpins in the history of DC, particularly the crack era, Rayful Edmond. I know you guys know about Rayful Edmond. Passed away like 2 days ago at the age of 60. And that guy, Rayful Edmond, if you guys know, if you know, you know. You know what crack did to the so-called black community, not just in Washington, D.C., to America, black America. Rayful Edmond is just one of the big-time kingpin drug dealers in the black community throughout America. It was a handful of guys who were legendary crack dealers, coke dealers, responsible for tons and tons and tons of destroyed families in the so-called black community. And those are the guys who many of our people, they idolize. And you know the whole story with Rayful Evans, what happened. He ended up becoming an informant. And you guys know how it is with street niggas. I don't care who you are, how many people you've killed, robbed, abducted, how much drugs you've sold. Once you become an informant, your name is mud in these streets as far as this street life goes. Let that be a lesson to anybody out there. If you're in the streets right now, you need to leave the streets right now before you get killed or you go to prison for 30, 35 years. Or you get locked up, become an informant, and now you and your whole family's life is in danger because you wanted to rat. You wanted to snitch. That's what happens when you live a life of wickedness. It's time to snap out of all of that. But you know why most people are not going to snap out of that? Definitely here in America. America loves violence. America loves gangster. American gangster. America was built on gangsterisms and violence. And when I was a little kid, shout out to the homie Big Frank. Big Frank, he was tall for his age, right? So he was like, Big Frank was like 5 inches taller than everybody else. So you would think that he was way older, but he wasn't. He's just 5 inches taller. He was new to the neighborhood. I ain't gonna say what neighborhood, right? But we out Landover, out on the turf. If you know, you know. Landover was a town, still is a town, but just like DC, Landover was completely overrun and overturned during the crack epidemic. Nothing but drugs and violence all over. That was the order of the day, drugs and violence. Even with the kids, violence was the order of the day. I'm telling you right now. By the way, this story that I'm telling you about, I was a little kid. This was during the crack era, by the way. These neighborhoods was like something right out of a movie, you guys. And I know a lot of you guys know it because you guys seen it too all over America. If you was black if you wasn't in the middle class, you was living in the hood. All these black so-called hoods all over America, it was pretty much the same thing everywhere. Crack and killing. That was the order of the day. Same thing was going on in my neighborhood. Even the kids was bad as hell, right? So, you know what? This must have been summertime because we wasn't in school. This was during the summer, right? And we used to live on the top floor, third floor. So I'm on the balcony. I'm a little kid now. I'm on the balcony. I'm up there where it's safe. You up on the balcony, you looking down so you can see everything, right? And it was for no reason. It was just because he was new to the neighborhood. That's the kind of neighborhood that we grew up in. Niggas was all about, you guys might not have heard that sound confirmation, but it was all about being a tough guy, being a thug, being a gangster. That's all. Remember now, I was a little kid in the crack era. So the older guys in my neighborhood, the teenagers, a lot of these niggas was maniacs. They was hood rich, gun toting, gun busting, mucho dinero having maniacs. Okay? And even as a kid, you can look and see, I might not knew all the ins and outs, but I could tell people in the neighborhood really love this guy or those guys. And why do they love this guy so much? You always hear about him beating somebody up, shooting somebody, shooting at somebody. Always got something going on with the police. Just being a wild and crazy guy. Or crazy guys with an S. Because the neighborhood that I grew up in, like many of you, my neighborhood was overpopulated with wild and crazy guys. The teenagers, the grown men, the little kids. So, right? Big Frank. He was like 5 inches taller than everybody else. So it would appear as though he was older, but he wasn't. So guys in the neighborhood was like, who's this new guy? We don't know him. We got to show him what kind of neighborhood this is. We got to let that nigga know that we the boss of him. That's how niggas are, y'all. Niggas, they wanted to bully Big Frank. They wanted to punk him. Y'all know about bullying, niggas trying to punk you and all that. And so, Big Frank was like, yo, all these niggas running up on me trying to treat me like a bitch, because that's what they was trying to do. And he wasn't a bitch. He wasn't a punk. So y'all know when niggas is trying to bully you in the hood and you don't let them bully you, niggas get pissed off. So now they really got to show you who the boss is. So all the goons and the thugs and the gangsters that were kids, they jumped on this boy Frank. Hey, y'all, I'm standing up there on my balcony. Me, my little sister. I want to say, eventually my mother came out there on the balcony, right? We out there on the balcony watching this, right? Looking down. Family, this was looking like a horror show. When I say they was on Big Frank's head, they were beating him. I thought they were trying to kill him. To me, looking at this looked like yet another attempt on someone's life. And I remember saying, yo, this is a horrible thing. I'm a small kid. I'm like, when they did that to Frank, let me see, I must have been, I want to say I was like 10. I was like 10 or 11 years old. So I'm 10 or 11. Frank had to be like 12, but he was 5 inches taller. You guys, it was people, let's say Frank was 12 years old. It was people from the ages of, Frank is 12 years old. It's from people like from the age of 9 to probably 13. From the ages 9 to 13. And it probably was like, some of those guys from 9 to 8, from ages 9 to 14. And it was probably like 15 or 20 of these guys. Y'all, when I say they beat this guy, hey, y'all, I thought they was trying to take his life. Thought they was trying to take his life. And as they're beating him, kicking him, doing all kind of, y'all doing all kind of shit to this boy. Mind you, we all live in the same neighborhood together. We all go to the same school. It's like 20, it's like 15 to 20 people jumping this guy, beating the shit out of him, laughing the whole way. There's like 15 or 20 people kicking his ass. Then, remember, everybody is kids that is actually beating his ass. Then it's like another maybe 30 to 40 people out here watching who are adults. Do you know that these people were laughing? Do you know that it was grown men and women out here laughing while 15 or 20 people are beating the hell out of another child? I'm talking about they're punching him, elbowing him, kicking him, throwing him. Everybody's doing this together now. I remember one time this boy was literally falling because they was rocking him and socking him. He's rolling down a hill. It's niggas running down the hill while he's rolling down the hill. Niggas are running down the hill as he's laying on the ground, rolling down the hill, running beside him, kicking him. And when he fell to the bottom of the hill, niggas kept kicking him and punching him some kind of way through the power of the Most High. This nigga was actually able to get up. He had to be in fight or flight mode right now. It looked like they were trying to take his life, y'all. And they were laughing while they were doing it. Grown men and women. It was like 30 adults out there, boots on the ground, laughing. I mean laughing hard. I'm a child. My little sister's on the balcony. My mother was up there actually trying to get these niggas to stop. You think them niggas stop? Some kind of way Big Frank was able to get away. Look, and he ran down the street, right? He ran, I kid you not. He ran down the street. He ran down the street. I'm not going to give too much info because if I do, y'all going to know exactly what neighborhood I'm talking about, right? If you from out here. He ran down the street far enough. I'm going to say he probably ran like, man, fuck it. Ain't nobody going to figure this out. And if y'all do, you do. I'm not making this up. He ran down the hill to the school. So when he ran down the hill to the school, right, I told you we lived on the 3rd floor. So, and we had binoculars, right? I can't believe what I just witnessed up here right now. We saw Big Frank take off and run down the hill, right, to get away from the savages. He goes down there, he sits on the playground. He nursing his wounds. Guess what? We had the binoculars at the crib. Nigga, we broke out the binoculars. So I'm looking all the way down there as a small child, seeing the homie Big Frank. This guy was a good guy. He didn't do anything to deserve this. They was just doing this for fun. That's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in, y'all. So as they're doing this is what happens when you're new to the neighborhood. Now look, they eventually went on to be cool with Big Frank. But this is what happens in the hood. It's some sick ass shit, y'all. I'm looking out the binoculars. I'm a little kid, y'all. I'm like 10 years old, y'all. Got the binoculars down there looking at Frank. He's hundreds and hundreds of feet away. He down there checking himself. I'm looking at him through the binoculars as he's feeling his wounds, checking himself. Y'all, they beat the hell out of him. He stayed down there probably for like 30 minutes nursing his wounds. I kid you not. I stayed on that balcony. Me and my little sister stayed on that balcony. All the savages that was out there who were beating the hell out of him, they was right there, right? They were laughing, high-fiving about, yeah, we effed him up. It was so funny, right? And you know what they were saying? We listening to these niggas. And they said, hey, we want to kick his ass some more. I was like, what the hell? They was like, hey, yo, we got to get that nigga to come back up here, yo, so we can F him up some more. Because he lived in the neighborhood. So at some point, he got to come back. Y'all, this is how demonic this shit was. I'm on my balcony, me and my little sister, listening, watching these niggas and listening to these niggas devise a diabolical plan to lure him back up here so they can kick his ass some more. And they got one of these niggas, I'm not going to say his name. Everybody said, hey, go down there and sweet talk that nigga Big Frank. Tell him that, hey, them niggas did some Bama shit. That's messed up what they did to you. I don't even rock with them niggas like that no more. They shouldn't have did you like that. You a good dude. But they gone now. They left. They told him to go down into the school, tell Frank that, and they said, hey, we gonna be back here hiding, and we gonna hide. As soon as you get him to walk back down in here, we gonna beat his ass. And we looking at these niggas like, yo, they already damn near killed this boy. It looked like they was trying to kill him, y'all. Y'all know that this scumbag walked down to the school, told these niggas to go into their hiding places, and they walked down to the school. He walked down to the school to sweet talk Frank and tell him what they just discussed. So you know what my little tail did? Got the binoculars. We looking with the binoculars. And we see this scumbag down there, sweet talking Frank, trying to convince him that, you know, that's messed up what them niggas did to you. They shouldn't have did that. You a good nigga, you know what I'm saying? But they gone now. It's safe to come back. And we was hoping and praying, yo, Big Frank, please don't fall for that. Because we watching these niggas right below us, hiding behind bushes, hiding behind corners, doing all kind of stuff, laying and waiting and hoping that they lures him to it. And then we slowly saw Frank raise up off the playground with the scumbag who should remain nameless. That nigga was a scumbag. And they started walking back toward the neighborhood. We was like, oh no, they're gonna get, oh my God, they're gonna get him. And right when they walked him down into the middle of the neighborhood where it was too late, them niggas sprung out from behind the bushes, sprung out from behind the corners and all their hiding places, y'all. And they started beating the hell out of him again. Y'all, that's one of the most brutal attacks that I've ever seen. And I've seen some attacks in my time. That was brutal. And the whole time they were doing it, they were laughing. There were plenty of adults out there laughing, thought it was funny. And then some kind of way, he ended up just running away and getting away for that day, and then that was over. But that's how he got welcomed to the neighborhood. He hadn't been there that long, and that's how they welcomed him to the neighborhood. The same way I got welcomed to the previous neighborhood I had been living in before I moved to that one. And that was happening in a lot of neighborhoods back then. Pure savagery. You know why? Because America loves violence. This is a blood-soaked country. And even from the time when we are kids, they are brainwashing us. Something happened to those kids in my neighborhood that would make 15, 20 people want to mercilessly beat on another child. Something took place in their lives, in those neighborhoods, in their homes. Something took place in the neighborhood that I lived in before that made 8 or 9 niggas want to jump me for no reason. Something was going on. And one of the things that I know was going on, America loves violence. Like this video, comment, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'm curious to know your thoughts, Hebrews. Peace.